Aloha, it's Dave Lawrence. How are you? A big mahalo for tuning in. I appreciate you taking the time to be here today. It's a great pleasure to welcome a true music, blues, and guitar legend to have a conversation with. He is a gifted songwriter, a ferocious interpreter of others' music, a guitarist whose style is innovative and deeply satisfying to fans around the world. His latest record, Living Proof. It includes Stay Around a Little Longer with our friend B.B. King. We're speaking with him today, however, about his new book, When I Left Home. And it's an honor and a huge thrill to introduce one of the most celebrated guitarists whose guitar playing and his voice have a way of picking you up when you need it most. It's the great Buddy Guy, and a big aloha and mahalo to you, Buddy. Thank you for doing this.
Well, hi. Thank you for having me. You know, anything, I got it from B.B. King and Muddy Water and them. Every little help helps the blues, man, because blues bees ignored by a lot of radio stations and everything else. Why, I do not know. I guess I never will figure out what happened, why they don't play a Muddy Waters once a month, every once in a while, Howlin' Wolf and people like that. You don't even hear that anymore.
Well, we're going to do our very best to try to keep the blues alive together.
Well, thank you so much. I wish we had 1 million more like you.
You're a kind man,
Thank you.
You're welcome. But before we dive into the book, because I am in Hawaii and it's sort of a unique place, if you just don't mind for a moment or two, if you don't mind running through any experiences that you have with Hawaii. You been out here before?
Oh yeah, man. You know, I came in actually, I forgot what birthday it was. I was playing there, and I must have been somewhere in the 50s, because I had took the whole band to dinner there. Yeah, I've played Hawaii maybe 4 or 5 times in my lifetime.
Any memories that stick out over the course of being here?
Well, the most memory I can give is the most beautiful place I ever been, you know, and I just didn't ever dream I would be able to think about coming there and not only living there, but I think that Taj Mahal used to live there.
Exactly.
And I had one of the greatest times of my life there, man, you know, and it's great, you know, and I think a drummer played with me some time ago, if he's still around, and then we give him a name, Snake. I think he lives there now, because I actually called because he played with my brother who passed away 4 years ago this year. He played with him for a long time.
Wow, an island connection.
Yes.
I like that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking about the book has and I've devoured the entire thing and even reread some of the parts because it was sort of a very inspiring book. Your journey is truly, there's a lot of great rock books to read or music books, whatever you want to think of them as, but yours is really a journey from very humble beginnings, as we were sort of joking before we started the interview, all the way up to what you are now. And there's this underlying theme of food I've noticed throughout the book, and it made me curious, what are those beans you're referring to wanting to buy in the morning?
Well, you know, in Louisiana, I was born and raised in Louisiana, and if you go down there now, they're noted for the red beans and rice. And my parents were sharecroppers, and we ate this stuff, man, 4, 5, 6 days a week. And at a certain age, I would say 5, 6, 7, I thought my mom and dad were just throwing it on me, but that's all they could afford back then as I got older. You know, you don't know any better when you're that young, and I'm like saying, of course, if you don't know nothing different, we didn't know nothing different. We had the pig or the chicken, the pig every once a year for Christmas, and then the chicken off the yard, and we didn't have what you call salmonella and all these kind of disease we got now, man. Mad cow disease. We didn't have cows, but whenever we had $1.10 to buy a piece of beef, she cooked it, and they had done butchered that cow out there, man, you know. So that's the way I was brought up, and I still love them. You know, I have to have my beans if I can get them 2 and 3 or 4 times a week now.
I love it. Red beans. I dig it. And the hunting. Do you still hunt ever?
I haven't been, because, you know, I was born in the South, and I was hunting to eat back then. You know, we'd go look for the birds or the rabbit to keep from eating the beans and rice on Sunday. So, no, I haven't been hunting since I've been up north, because after I went north, I would read the papers every day. And, for instance, one of your political people went hunting and shot the guy.
One of his friends with him.
Yeah. So I said, I better not go hunting up here because I might look too much like a rabbit.
Exactly. That's a good point. And you mentioned it just a moment ago. You do not like the genetically modified foods, and no one could really blame you for that. When did that start? When you realized, I don't like it when they mess with my food?
Well, if we used to raise our own chicken, our own pigs, as I said a few minutes ago, and now you go to the store, if you get ready to buy you a couple of drumsticks and frying chicken, what we call it. I mean, I was in the store and I had the butcher laughing. I said, man, are those drumsticks or turkey legs? Whatever they're doing to that chicken and whatever other beef you're doing tonight, it's not like it was when I grew up, man. Even your fish are farm raised. Now, the fish I was catching back in Louisiana was just from the bayous and the lakes, little lakes we had, and they was fresh, and those fish was like that. The rainwater we caught was just sweet, man, and you don't get that no more. They putting some kind of chemicals in the ground on your corn. I love fresh corn, man, and I go now, they call it bio corn, and it look like popcorn. Got different color kernels on it. The corn I came up with didn't have but two kinds. That was a white and a yellow. And if you wanted the other, you had to get a popcorn with all them different colors in it. So I don't know what they're doing with it now. Even my watermelon, we had to raise our cantaloupes, our watermelon. Now you go to the store, you can't hardly find a watermelon with seeds in it. So what did you do to make it don't have no seeds?
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, I don't buy that though. I won't eat that.
I love that. That is, and as you said it wisely, if I could just paraphrase, you said, you never did hear of the cancer back then.
No, when I was 15, 14, 15, 13 years old, if you said cancer, man, I'm like, what? But, and then I thought it was something like on the outside of your body, your skin or something, you could see it. But now, man, you be laughing and joking with a person this week, and 3 weeks later, they got 6 months to live, 5 months or less than a year to live, man. And to be honest with you, I think somebody know what's going on with that crap, man. They just, it's a lot of secrets that we ain't gonna never know, man. Because I know if you can send, I think it was about 4 months ago, they sent something from Florida out in space, traveling 1 million miles a minute, is not going to make it to its destination for 5 years, and you still can figure out what the hell it's doing. I know you can figure out what the hell is going on next door.
I hear you, man. I know you're saying if you can put a man on the moon so easy, you should be able to stop these diseases.
Yes, I think they can, but they don't want to stop it because I think just like the world is overpopulated and can't afford to feed itself, and that's where all this crap is coming from, man. But it's like I told somebody today, man, I'm here in New York now. Do you know how well we was doing before we came over with nuclear energy and you can't dispose of it?
Good point.
We was doing fine.
That's a good point.
And now you got, and I can see it if you could dispose of it, that water that cools that thing, they can't dispose of it, so why keep creating it?
Right.
Why create something you have no control over? The bombs and the weapons we got, one will destroy the whole world, man. What do you need that for? I mean, at this day and age, man, human beings should be to learn how to get along with one another without fighting.
That's got to be the most civilized thing. When you hear the word civilization, I can't think of a better embodiment of it than what you just said, that people should be able to get along without fighting. And
I don't have a high school education. I see that, so why is all these professors and scientific people can't say, wait a minute now, why should I come up with something I have no control over? And, I just don't make sense to me. Sometimes I don't even want to talk about it because I go home and sometimes and just cry and say, I could see why my mom prayed so hard and prayed to the Supreme Being that, she would just hope everybody would be happy.
Yeah, it's a lot of trouble in the world. And I think when you said you only have a high school, you don't have a high school education. When you think about your education, however, in what you said, you bring a lot to the table, and it proves that a person can offer quite a bit to the world without ever having gone through the traditional norms of education. And as I mentioned a little bit in joking with you, I said, when was the last time you wrung a chicken's neck? It's probably been a long time, right?
Oh, yeah, since I left the farm. Actually, they tell me if you go down there now, they don't want you to wring his neck because the health inspector have to come in and inspect the chicken. And I told somebody in an interview the other day, man, we was drinking water from the creeks and the bayous, and I'm still living. So it ain't as bad as the water that you paying for now. You know, that's just the way it is, man. You know, and I don't have a high school education, but I got a high school street education.
And there's a ton of value in it. And I guess I mentioned, as we segue into your guitar, I mentioned the chicken thing because there's this thing I've had as a fan of yours for well over 20 years. I've been a fan of yours. And one of the things that when I read in the book about you doing that as a kid, wringing the chicken's neck, and one of the elements about your playing that's made an impression on me is the way that, and it could be a Guitar Slim influence thing too, but I always think of the chicken, I think of taming a horse, I think of the killing a pig, but you kind of, when you grab the guitar, you do it with such force, such unusual handling. The only other guy in my lifetime I've seen do it like that is Jeff Beck, that unique physical approach that you've got when you touch the guitar.
Well, you know, I just did a benefit with him. And you know, when I met him, man, him and Eric Clapton, you know, they in February of 1965, you know, they was playing guitar and they never thought. He said him and Eric told me they didn't even think about buying a Stratocaster because they didn't think it would play blues. And every time I see them, they remind me of that. They saw me play it and say, "That's it. I'm going to the Strat because Buddy got and showed us." He do play blues, but I got that stuff from. We all got something from somebody, man. There was a great guitar player in New Orleans named Guitar Slim, made a famous record called "Things I Used to Do," and that's the first Strat I ever saw. And I said, "Man, what is that?" I didn't even know what the hell it was.
Yeah, so two things from Guitar Slim I'm hearing, not just the incredible showmanship and playing stuff, but also the very guitar.
Yeah, and I, you know. When I saw him, T-Bone, and BB, you know, and he was wild. That's why I copied that stuff. My thing was I wanted to play like BB King, but I wanted to act like Guitar Slim because the first time I went to catch him in one of those little places in Baton Rouge, they introduced the ladies and gentlemen BB King, and BB walks up and pick up his guitar and go to play. When they say, "Ladies and gentlemen, Guitar Slim," I didn't hear nothing but a guitar, and I looked, he was coming in the door. And I said, "Man, this is what I want to do."
I love that. That is like, and you explain things so well. It's great talking to you because you put you really sum it up. I mean, and the thing that you say in the book is about Guitar Slim, sort of adding to what you just said. You said, "I liked how he treated it rough because the treatment got into the feeling of the music."
Well, if you can go to some of the guitar stores now, they even making the Strat with scratches on it, because you know if you don't play it, you won't scratch it. It's just like I had a new car once, and I was going to the grocery store here in Chicago, and it was snowing, and a guy was trailing me. And when I got to the store, I parked, and he said, "You got a rubber pipe?" I said, "For what?" He said, "When you driving a car like this in the snow, when you get out, you should put a rubber pipe or wrap it around it so won't nobody scratch it." I said, "No, if that's the case, I'd leave it at home because I bought the car to keep me warm, not for me to keep it warm."
I love it. I love it. And speaking of Chicago, your life has gone through eras that I'm a younger dude. I'm 41, so I haven't seen the America that you saw. And when you think of America and your life today, is it another place entirely compared to living through segregation, like at the movies when you had to sit upstairs to see the Lone Ranger? I'm just curious of your social, because you mentioned Chicago, and I just see that as sort of like almost the middle of the country in so many ways. How have things evolved in your eyes? I done seen life change a bit, but people still the same, man. Black, white, tall, big, and everything. Everybody got excuse my language, a fucking problem. I couldn't dislike you and don't know you. And I was brought up with my parents told me that, man. And they were so true. I don't think they ever lied to me about that.
I know people that don't know somebody from watching them on television, and I'm like saying, how could you feel like that? And I have talked to some people, man, some college kids, and later on they come back and say to me, man, if you hadn't have told me that, man, I was the dumbest person in the world. Because they was like disliking, and I'm talking about blacks on black, whites on white. I've come up to, I don't care nothing about him. Do you know him? What did he do to make you don't care nothing about it? That's what's wrong with the world right now, man. Whatever religion you got right now, that's all right with me. And I wish you feel the same way about me. Let's say, for instance, if I pray to a cow and you pray to a horse, that's all right with me. If whatever you believe in, that's all right with me. I'm not going to come and dislike you because you don't like a horse because I like a horse. And if we all could look at life like that, man, it would be a beautiful place to live and live in the world. We all could hug one another and say, I love you, man.
It sure
because we're only here for a little while.
It sure sounds like the way your mom, Isabella, and my mom, Isabel, raised us in sort of a similar way.
Yes, sir. And I wish all our moms had been Isabel and Isabella.
Yeah, man, no doubt.
Yes. Yes.
And I like that in your whole life, that feeling of embracing, and it's good for you to share that. Thinking about your parents, it's sort of a remarkable journey you had. There was this time, it was when you were young, I guess it was Coot that your pop brought over, Henry Smith. Is that who we have to thank for your initial guitar curiosity?
Yes, but they, on the plantation, so my dad had died from cirrhosis of the liver, and they said that come from drinking. My dad only drank, man, on Christmas. Unless somebody special drove up there, like he had a brother-in-law living in New Orleans, if they would come out there on a Saturday night, they might drink a quart of beer, but only on Christmas they would get that gallon of wine at your mom and dad's house, and we'd go there 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, drink the case of beer and drink your wine, then your parents would come to my house and do the same thing till you make that round through the country, and the Christmas was over. And by the way, we didn't know nothing but 2 holidays in a year, and that was Easter Sunday and Christmas. And the rest of these days, like we just had one, what was it?
Memorial Day.
Memorial Day, Labor Day, that's exactly what it was while I grew up at Labor. He was out there to field Labor. So all of that, was like new to me when I left there and come over to all these other holidays we have and respect. And I know they was there, but we had to get in the fields and chop the cotton and pick the cotton and go on. We didn't have time to celebrate on 4th of July, man. That was work, And a lot of things goes on today, man, that I wish would return because not changing the subject, but my parents, they never had a lock on the door of the house. And you couldn't pay nobody to go in there if we wasn't there. When my dad first got a raggedy car, I don't think the keys never have been took out the ignition. Only time we rolled the windows up because there wasn't no air conditioning back there when it rained. And you couldn't pay nobody to go in and crank that car and drive off because somebody would see him and tell who you was. People are afraid to even say anything and see somebody robbing and killing people now. They're afraid to say, I saw you.
So in so many ways, you do see, while things have maybe in some ways improved on the surface between race relations, among other things in the country, you also see a deterioration in other ways. I
see everything just like I guess you see it, man. It have changed a bit since Dr. Martin Luther King, but the change it made still didn't make some people still hate you or don't like you because your size or your color or your weight or your hair, whatever means they want to dislike you. And as I said earlier, and they don't even know you. Let me give you an example. The first time I ever played Stanford University in California, there out of San Francisco, Eric Clapton was this hottest guitar player. He was coming in there to the Fillmore, and it was sold out. And we was over at Stanford playing a dinner. And one of the girls from Alabama wanted to go, and Eric had called me. It wasn't no ticket. Said, well, I could get in there. She said, well, I'm from Mobile, and I can't go out after dark with black people. And she drove her car, and we agreed. You know, if that's where you want it, fine. And she got so drunk she couldn't drive back. My horn player dead and gone. Took her car and drive it back. He was black. We brought her back, picked her up, and put her in a dime, and went on to the other kid's house and drank beer all night and got drunk. And when she woke up the next morning, she wanted to know what happened. And her friends told her what happened. And I saw that girl here in New Jersey 20 years later. You know what she told me? She was married and had a beautiful family. She said, I haven't seen my parents since because they had taught me that.
Yeah, and that's where that crap comes from.
That's where the crap comes from. If you white and I'm black, and we have two children, if you put them in the room, if you don't tell him he white and I don't tell mine that he black, those kids will grow up and they'll be like two dogs. If you raise two dogs together and another dog come jump on that dog, you ain't got to tell that they go help him.
No, it's so true. I mean, it's just, and you see it all around, and so I guess that's something that's part of the human legacy. I guess that we're never going to be able to get rid of. But
well, if you ever, you know, sometimes you read the Bible and it's confusing, but you know they got things in there about that, man. And I'm like saying, if you read it and you get disgusted with it, all of a sudden you run into something and say, somebody knew something in the biblical days.
Right. Now,
and it speaks of what we're talking about.
No, it does, about treating people fairly, tolerance.
Oh, yeah.
Tolerance for different faiths and different people. No, it's
because if everybody was like me, son, do you know you wouldn't need a gun unless you're going, like I say, to kill you something to eat.
Oh, it's true, brother. Believe me, I was raised in a real civil rights household.
Well, all over the world right now, you got people is killing their own people because they're saying, you're not following me.
Right.
I don't even tell my children to follow me, man, because I don't want one of them to come up and say, if it hadn't been for you, Daddy, I wouldn't have been this.
Right. You want them to take their own path.
Take your own path, then come back to me and say, Dad, you know, if you can give me some Jackson, I might suggest something to him, but I don't, because, for instance, let me say, I was in Argentina about 2 weeks ago, and this new guy on CNN was interviewing Michael Jackson's mother. And he asked her, say, did you really discipline Michael? She said, no, I whacked him. But he never went to jail. Because there was a lot of crime in Gary, Indiana, where he grew up, and said Michael wasn't breaking in cars and going on like these children. You couldn't dial 911 and say, my mama done hit me back then. I couldn't dial 911 and say my grandmother had hit me with that broomstick. Because the law enforcement will come out there and say, did you hit him good? And guess what? I don't regret one damn minute of it right now because they put me in line. My teacher used to whack me.
Discipline.
And I better not go home and tell my dad that the teacher whacked me. He'll say, she did, and I got another one. So I kept my mouth shut so I didn't have to add that other one on me.
You learned your lesson.
Yes, I did.
And you picked up, lessons have been a part of your life, and I like there's a great moment in the book, actually, and I'm curious if it's still the case with you. I've got to believe from what you said, you've already answered it, but there's a great moment where you talk about, there are two buddy guys. There's the wild man on stage, that's one buddy guy, then the other one is a very quiet, observant studio pro. And it's sort of like, when you think about what you were just saying, about the lessons, taking lessons. There was a theme throughout the whole book, as I read When I Left Home, that whenever it came to, whether it's the blues heroes, maybe it's being around Muddy Waters, or maybe it was when you were doing a session and somebody was like, and you wanted to be the star, but you knew you had to be the backup guy. You would do everything in your power to make the star shine through your performance. It's almost like you learned as you went along. You were constantly open to being able to learn from each of these experiences.
No, my thing is, to make the long story short, so when I was in the studio with them, I was in grade school. And that's what you call shut up and look and listen and learn.
Right.
So that's what made me come out with those little licks that you hear Hendrix or Jeff Beck or Eric Nimitz and Keith Richards and them talking about. When I went in with Sonny Boy Muddy and he asked me to play, I'm like saying, buddy, you in class now.
Right.
Don't go up there and teach the teacher nothing. And that's what helped me throughout my career to be answering your questions now.
That's it. That's what I thought. And I like that because it's inspiration to me. I've had that attitude often, but it makes me want to be a little bit more listening to people. And on that note, there's a sort of a thing that you say that's kind of, it's a serious thing and it's important to address. Willie Dixon, you have a great quote in there. He would devour songwriting credits like he did that chicken. Share some of your experiences that led to that statement.
Well, when I went there, and at a point right now, I'm still dumb to the fact to a lot of things I haven't learned. And let's put it like this. My parents would always tell me, you never get too old to learn. And it was the songwriting. I didn't know what was behind writing a good song, how much money you could get if you wrote a hit song if they didn't take it from you. And that was the name of the game. Still is if you don't know how to go in and make sure they don't do it to you, man. It's a rip-off now. I just was being interviewed earlier today, and I told someone I think Elvis might would have lived a little longer if he hadn't found out Colonel was making more money than he was.
That's a embodiment of how the business is often.
Oh, yeah. It's not only in that. Do you know, if you look around right now, I'm looking at some of the big companies that's laying off so many people, the airlines, and all of a sudden you look, the big CEO got a raise of millions. And the people that brought your bags and made sure your bags get there, I used to come into the airport, your bag would beat you there if you had a distance to walk to the baggage claim. Now sometimes you almost can go home and go back to get your bag because ain't nobody out there that fired all those people, and the CEO got a big raise. And they say they're losing money. If you look at them now, they used to didn't charge you for the bags. I don't know if you saw how much money they made in the last 7 years for charging you this bag, and they still claim they ain't got no money, but the big people is getting raises.
My brother, it's even worse. You got to check yourself in. How about that?
Well, man, it's getting, I try not to even think about it because I'm looking at them and saying, it's something wrong. For an example, I live in Illinois, and most of the states got it now. Now, my children, I got grandchildren now. My children was going to school and was getting free lunch. And they came up with the lottery, the gambling boats, the casinos, and say it was to help the schools. My grandchildren got to buy lunch now.
It's so...
And the state is still broke.
Right.
And there once wasn't no tollways, and it was highways, and they was getting free lunch. And now if you try to drive cross country, if you ain't got a lot of money, you got to go rural routes because that tollway, man, if you get on the tollway in Buffalo, just before you get to Buffalo, New York, and go all the way across to Massachusetts, you'd be surprised what you got to pay with my toll bus.
Brother, I lived in Boston. I know what you're talking about. They hit you hard on that Mass Pike area.
And who getting the money if you all broke? Do you know how many cars and trucks go through these toll gates in a day, and they still say they don't have no money? Matter of fact, in Chicago, they interviewed a guy the other day, and he said when they put the toll gate up, they said it was going to take so many years to pay for it. And somebody asked them, say, what happened? They say, well, we told you it was going to be so many years to pay for it, but we didn't tell you wasn't going to have to pay after that.
That's a good point. They said, yeah, it'll take this long, but we never said we're going to stop taking the money at any point. Right. I love it.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Chicago again, and I could talk all day with you, and I'm respectful of your time, so I'll make sure to keep this on track. Talk about, because we haven't given him nearly enough time, and like I said, a guy like yourself, we could talk all day. There's so much, and we'd never get it all in. But talk a little bit about buying and preserving Muddy's house, 4339 South Lake Park, and a little bit about the importance of that.
Well, first of all, he had his manager was Scott Cameron, which wound up managing me till a short time ago. I don't want to get into that because there's a long story behind that. But I gave like $10,000 to save the house until they made it a landmark. And it's still there. And I went by with David, who wrote the book, and he haven't did anything. The house just looked like it might fall down any minute. And when you make a landmark, it should be kept up. And I don't know what he did or what, because it's a long story I won't get into.
I understand.
Why he's not managing me anymore. It's like the Elvis Presley thing, you know. and I loved it muddy enough for that. Actually, they should have had one on Little Walton, and Wolf them, but they didn't even have a home, I don't think. I think Wolf might have had one when he died, because all those guys, man, should have landmarks, because lately I've been talking to the city of Chicago as high as I could get about Austin, Texas, come up with a statue of Stevie Ray Vaughan. And now they saying Austin, Texas is the little blues capital of the world. If Stevie was living and those guys from down and they come up with a statue on Willie Nelson down there, I said, man, Chicago should have a statue of Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, and Little Walter and them. And if Stevie was living, he would tell you, don't put this statue in Austin, Texas. I know him that well. It belonged in Chicago, because even the Beatles came to Chicago, man, in the beginning trying to get in the chess. I was doing a record in chess called My Time After Why when Muddy helped the Stones come up the stairs.
I know, and there's
now, how you going to take that from Chicago? But I do, through the grapevine. They're coming through right now and saying, we need to talk to you, buddy. Because they finally give me a honorary street sign on my birthday last year.
Well,
right in front of my club, and all of my wife started crying. I say, thank God you give it to me like my mother told me. Said, boy, if you got some flowers, give them to me so I can smell them. Because if you put them on the grave, I'm not going to smell them. And whenever time a blues guy die, he get more publicity than he got when he's alive. And I got some friends in television now. Ever since Junior Well, Muddy, Stephen died, all of them died, they would come running to me with them cameras. I say, why was you all when they was a living? The year Michael Jackson swept all the Grammys was 1983, and Muddy died. That was his big picture on national television. I said he would have felt very, very proud if he could have saw that.
Right, in his life.
In his lifetime. But you don't see all that exposure until we gone. Then here they come.
It's a sad truth, and MJ is a good reference to that. Certainly, the way the Michael thing played out.
Right.
It was a very good example of that. You mentioned Stevie Ray Vaughan. You and Carlos at Legends for Stevie Ray Vaughan's funeral day. Does that still hold powerful meaning for you?
Yes, it does, because they was playing at what you call it. Why he accidentally got on that chop and what is it? I did just about to finish talking about and
Alpine Valley.
But they came in, and I still got friends come by now from the television. They say, we coming because you gave us hell because we didn't come till he died. But I played that last number with him, man. I wasn't even on the show. They called me, him and Eric, to come go up there and watch them play that night, because I didn't have a recording contract, and they was getting together saying, we're going to make them take you in the studio because we going to come in and play with you. And that gave me a big lift, man, and people like that come along once in a lifetime.
That is incredible that you were on that Sweet Home Chicago, that all-star last jam. I mean, it gave me chills reading that part of the book.
Yes, I played. They called me out there to play it. I didn't even know that. Matter of fact, I knew they was going to call me, but I was sitting on side the stage watching all of them. It was Robert Cray, too, Eric, and Stevie was the headliners.
What a good bill. What a good
man, you know, you don't have that kind of stuff no more. Eric is still around. We do it every once in a while when he do his crossroads. Now, he was doing it every 2 or 3 years, and I think he had said no, but I hear rumors that he might come back and do another, because people love that. So I haven't asked him, but next time I see him, I'm going to say, man, you got to do one more.
Well, those shows you would do with BB when he would do his BB King, those tours, and he would bring you out and Coco Taylor and stuff, those were really cool, and I appreciated seeing them. But the one time when you talk about those all-star sort of things, the one show with you that I'll leave this in your mind, It's burned into my mind. I'll never, ever forget it, buddy. It was the summer of 1994. It was July or August, and I was up at Stowe, Vermont. I drove up from Boston, and it was it was a Santana tour, and you were the opener, and he brought you out during his set, and I'm getting chills just thinking about it. You guys did Maggot Brain from Funkadelic, and
oh man, I remember that because I think somebody threw up and hit him in with a rock or something.
Exactly. Yeah. That's right. Exactly. He said, "Don't be throwing stuff on the show." That's exactly right. Because I have a bootleg of it. That's exactly right. Good memory.
That. Yeah.
Good memory.
Things like that don't ever leave me, man.
What? So you didn't do that every night? You guys weren't doing the Funkadelic every night at the show?
No, not every night. No.
Oh my God! So you remember something that I saw? Wow, that's heavy, dude. That was a great jam.
Well, thank you. I had fun myself that night.
Hey, I'm giving you a big hug and a high five, and I know you've done a gazillion interviews in your life. I hope this was at least somewhat kept your interest.
Well, thank you very much, and whatever you can do to help the blues, I certainly appreciate it. Whenever I'm around, if I come through there, man, I'll whatever I can do. If you're on radio, I'll come up and set up and rap with you one day.
I give you a big hug, buddy. You be safe. If you're ever in Hawaii, brother, you better look me up. I'll take real good care of you. I'll take you out for some good food.
Thank you very much, and whatever you can do to keep punching that blues in there every once in a while. Punch me in muddy water once or twice a week, and I'll be happy.
I will do it. I give you a high five and a big hug, my brother.
Thank you very much. Have a great one.
Be safe. Aloha.
All right. Bye-bye.